I'm delighted to have today with me my friend Stuart Pattison, who has had a career in sales that rivals almost no other in the banking universe that I've been a part of and that Stuart has been a part of. I know from having been a colleague and and someone who's worked with Stuart that he started his career in the brokerage industry, making 300 plus cold calls a day, transitioned into banking and was highly successful as a relationship manager, but then moved into executive management at a number of major banks where he led sales teams for many decades. I first met him when he was running a community bank sales team. And I've always been impressed, Stuart, with how you focused on the craft of selling and how to develop sales teams. So I think the conversation that we're going to have is going to be extremely relevant. And it's an interesting conversation because you took a hiatus from leading sales teams and started thinking about sales as it exists today and went so far as to write a book about it, which I highly recommend. You have a copy there handy so that I can read the title. It's a great title, Future Proof Selling: How the Salesperson's Guide to Adaptation and Innovation in a Rapidly Changing World. It's a highly personal book from my vantage point and one that has a lot of wisdom. So we're going to talk about it. So, Stuart, tell me a little bit about what this hiatus from bank leadership into more of a producing sales role led you to think about selling in a slightly different way.
Yeah, so I was in banking course successfully for 35 years and really enjoyed my time as a banker and leading sales teams and seen great success. I had an opportunity to depart banking, and I was lucky enough to be offered a position with CCIG. It's a commercial insurance group that I focus on middle market companies. And so I was asked to kind of support a team and decided that it's best for me to prove that I could sell after telling people and teaching and coaching. So I took a direct sales position, and it's been fascinating. I mean, what I've learned has just sort of rocked my world in the sense that it's so different than what I was doing just a year ago. And so this book I wrote is really my own personal focus on building a direct plan for me to be successful. And insurance isn't that different from banking. And as a banker, you focus on where the money goes and the risks attached to that. In insurance, you focus on the same thing, but you protect the stock of money to support the success as a, protection as a insurance focused person. So the one thing that has really been interesting is I've always taught make a call, overcome the gatekeeper, build rapport, ask good questions, open-ended questions, find the pain, overcome objections, offer solutions, and close the deal. But that is gone. The way that business owners think now is they think in terms of the return on their time. So I call it ROT, R-O-T. If you're calling someone that owns a business, they're assuming you know insurance, they're assuming you know banking, but they want to know what's the return on my time if I talk to you or meet with you. And that's what I found interesting. Sales now is all about building trust and adding value. And you do that through differentiation of yourself and adding value through the skill, but it's completely different than what we used to do in banking and insurance. You really need to dig in and get to know the industry, the individual, and be able to be an expert in that field. And you've got to move quick because people are busier and they don't have time to just listen to a pitch. The other issue that I noticed is people don't respond to email. It's switched now. It used to be no one answered their phone. Now people answer their phone but won't return an email. So what I do is I either leave a voicemail after a call or talk to someone directly, and I follow up with a short email that has specific, actionable, very specific to their business and their industry to enlighten the skill set that I have and add value to the products I'm selling.
You said a couple things that I want to dig in a little deeper on. One of the things you talked about is this challenge of differentiating yourself. And a lot of the people in banking, for sure, I imagine in insurance, are generalists. But in order to be successful, as you indicate, you have to be able to demonstrate that you can bring some immediate value to a particular business's situation. So how much, I don't know, how much specialization is necessary for a generalist today to be successful, and how would they go about acquiring it?
Yeah, I think it's critical. You can't be all things to all people anymore. The only way you can differentiate is having expertise in a certain industry or a certain field. And so by really digging in and having targeted prospects, so you know the industries you want to focus in, becoming an expert in those industries, so you know the language, you know the hot buttons, you know the issues that those industry leaders are dealing with, and then you know the top businesses in those industries to go call upon. So using the consultative selling, you need to be involved. You need to attend the trade shows. You need to be present in, you know, certain places where you know networking will happen, and you'll meet those that are in the industry. And by doing that, it allows you to differentiate yourself because you know the language, you're able to really get to know the individuals that you want to work with, and you understand what they're dealing with. And so by doing that, you can then spark up social media. You can use AI to write the right information. You can use LinkedIn to specialize and let people know what you do and how you can help them and what industries you specialize in. But being all things to all people, it just gets watered down, and the competition then will come in and take those clients because that person that's selling their products to the industry they understand will really knock the person out that just kind of blows just a little bit. So I deal with, you know, different people, but I've specialized in insurance in that same way. So it allows me to really attract top companies that I want to work with.
You made an observation in the book about how LinkedIn, for example, is about building relationships, and it's not all about the quantity of relationships you have. I mean, that's certainly, we certainly think is important in extending our networks, but it's about the quality and the relationships that you can build, perhaps using LinkedIn as one of the tools of the trade. And that's, again, that's an important message for people to realize, that this is ultimately a tool that's going to help you talk to people. I totally endorse your comment that people aren't responding to emails. I totally believe that you have to pick up the phone and engage with folks. It's not, and in many respects, you're more likely to get through to people today than perhaps we often talk ourselves into thinking we're not going to. So
It's interesting. I'll make a call to somebody, leave a voicemail. I look at my LinkedIn and they've looked up my profile to find out who is this guy that's leaving me a voicemail. So you really need to beef up your LinkedIn to show your expertise, your background, and your connectivity in the industry or your focus. I never posted on LinkedIn ever, I don't think, until I started direct sales. And so I post 2 to 3 times a week with things that I find interesting that I feel would be engaging, because the more engaging a post is on LinkedIn, the more people that will look at it, read it, and pass it along. You have to have hashtags and emojis, catchy, you know, title, but adding something behind that catchy title that is of interest to people that want to be engaged. I've actually met people that say, God, Stuart, I know you from somewhere. And they realize, oh, they follow me on Facebook because they're seeing that I'm volunteering for nonprofits, or I'm attending a networking event. And so I'm building my own brand and allowing people to look at that from a social media standpoint.
yeah, and you've been experimenting. You alluded to the fact that AI is part of the toolkit that successful sellers have to be uh, taking advantage of today. How have you approached AI as a tool?
So I use AI every day, most of the day. I was afraid of it, didn't understand it. It came at me pretty quick where I said, what is this AI stuff? So I jumped in and realized it's nothing to be afraid of. It's a tool that we can use. It's the internet's brain, and instantly will give you direct answers to questions or feedback.
Mhm.
So I'll go into AI and say, what would be an interesting topic to discuss a certain insurance product? And it will give me some ideas, and I'll add some things to it and then send it through AI, and it'll clean it up and create some interesting thought added to me. I do caution everybody to make sure you fact check anything that you take from AI because it's not always right. You need to look at it and make sure that that number is, has a reference and it's fact checked. But it's allowed me to have a personal assistant. It sends me reminders. It actually knows my language. So I'll type something in and I'll say, retype that in my own language. But it's become a big part of how I gain information to help those that I'm working with.
Yeah. Well, I think the message that's coming through loud and clear to me, and it's clear in the book, is that you're one of those people that's constantly testing things out and experimenting and going to others. I think you've utilized family members to assist in thinking about how to adopt these technologies. I'm going to ask you for a second to think about the people who manage bank sales teams. Many of these are people that reported to you over the years and are looking at this rapidly changing environment. They're looking at some of the same tools that you've been talking about in this conversation. What kinds of advice would you give bank sales leaders about how to coach and develop their teams in this new world?
Yeah, great question, because that's been on my mind. And part of the reason I wrote the book was I managed a certain way, and then I went into direct sales and realized it's so different. You need to do many things differently. And if I ever go back into sales management, I will then take these skills and completely overhaul how I managed. So time wasters, I wouldn't be sending as many emails. I would personalize the coaching sessions and really look at any skill gaps of an individual and help support and fulfill that. I think every sales manager needs to be selling and realizing where it's difficult. And then you become a better coach because you know how to overcome issues, you know how to compete, you know how to communicate, and you can be a better director and coach and really shape those that are struggling or those that are newer, and you can show them how to do it. And then I would look at what you track using either AI or the systems you have internally to not overtrack. I think I overtracked. You need to look at what really means something, and you're really focused on the measurement of the skill development and where it's working, where it's not, and then opportunities to help fill the gaps and really create some success. And then use the whole team to see what's working, who's doing what, and really bring the team together to understand what should I be doing, what should I not be doing, what's working, what's not, and then continue the education of what's the right focus, what's the right industry, what's the right products, how do we differentiate, and really having the skill to tell the story, and really have fun. I mean, meeting clients should not be that stressful. You should be proud and excited to help them as a banker, and they need you. And the more confident you are and the more fun you have and the more you adapt to the marketplace, the success is there. It's just a numbers game. I also think you need to make more calls. I think a lot of bankers pick up the phone a few times a week. You need to make 5, 10, 20 calls a day in order to really get the full funnel on the top down. And it becomes easier the more calls you make. And then you don't get in the deal divot where you're stuck on a new credit or a new relationship and you're not making the calls for 2 weeks and you close that deal and you have to start over. You need that cadence of consistent calling, and it's got to be scheduled and done on a daily basis.
What would you tell bank management about, say, AI, where there's still some broad concern or maybe a lack of awareness about how institutions, and talk specifically about a community bank environment, because you've been an executive manager in community banks. How should a community bank CEO approach the AI topic when it comes to sales?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, you got to just jump in and start using it. It's very simple to use, and you'll realize it's very different than Google. If you type in something to Google, it gives you websites. If you go to AI, it gives you the answer. But what you can do with this AI is just fascinating. As a company, my existing company is looking into building an AI program. We don't have anything now, but I have 2 screens and AI is on one screen at all times. It's between LinkedIn and AI. And so once you start using it, you realize the capability of what it can do. And then if you add on the ability to, build some very simple, it writes it for you, but simple, a platform where you can have it look for the right industries and the right names, or I could type in what's the mission and vision of a certain company, and it will spit back out. So I instantly know that while I'm on the phone. So it's unbelievable how this is going to change what we do. I think 30% of all the administration part of a banker's job is going to go away, and it will allow you to have more time with the client and more time really developing your skills as a salesperson, as a relationship manager. But you got to try it, you got to use it, and then you'll understand it. And then there's companies out there that will help build programs for chat box, for service, for marketing programs. It's endless what AI is going to do with our industry.
I think that's great advice. I do encourage people to buy the book. Stuart, where can people find it?
It's on Amazon.
Future-proof selling, Stuart Pattison. A lot of great takeaways. It'll make you think about what you're doing, which is part of what I think Stuart brings to the conversation today. And I appreciate your insights, and I'm very interested in how this develops. I think you'll be writing some more books down the road. So thank you very much for being part of this NedTalks, Stuart.
Thanks, Ned.